Have you been in a situation where you're looking at your space and you're thinking, something's a little off with the furniture placement? Or have you maybe moved into a new space or are about to move into a new space and you're not quite sure how to fill it in a way that makes sense? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about a guide to furniture placement, some do's and some don'ts that might be helpful to eliminate some stress and save your back for moving things around. So our first tip that we're going to talk about is choose a focal point. If it's a living room, is the focal point a fireplace? Is it a bookcase? Maybe the focal point is the view that's outside. Maybe you're on this big, beautiful lake and you want everyone to view that, or you're on a golf course, or you just have a beautiful garden in the back that you want people to see. What is the focal point? Where do you want your furniture placement to surround to have that one element in the room really stand out? So we're going to be talking about the living room first. We'll talk about making an arrangement in the living room. So we're looking at a living room setting here, and we want the fireplace to be the focal point. So our fireplace is placed here. We're entering the room this direction, and as you're entering the room, your eye leads straight through the furniture and to that fireplace. This is just one arrangement. Another, you could simply take this away, maybe move this over here, and we'll shift this around this way, and let's flank a couple of chairs. One over here and maybe one over here. So a bunch of different ways to arrange this particular space so that all of our furniture is allowing the fireplace to be the focal point, because we're directing our eye no matter where you sit, it's easily seen here. All right, say you have a spectacular view outside of these windows. So you've got a fireplace going on and you've got this gorgeous view that you don't want to block. It could be of gardens, it may be a lake view, something that you really want your guests to be able to see too. So in that situation, we would maybe want to place our sofa on the opposite side of the windows so that it's not completely blocking the view there. Throw in our cocktail table in the center. Maybe if we need additional seating, we can throw in a love seat as well. And then we want to place low back chairs on the side with the windows. Now, the idea with these chairs is to keep the low backs so that as you're gazing this direction, you can see past the chairs and see through the windows. Or maybe you even want to do some kind of open back chair. Or these could also be swivel chairs so that your guests can swivel around and look at that great lake or garden view over there. So the point here is that we're still having this great conversation going around the fireplace, but we're also leaving things nice and open so that we can see the windows in this direction as well. My second tip for our furniture guide is to try to avoid lining your walls with all of your furniture pieces. I say if possible because there are some circumstances where you may be very limited on space, and placing your sofa and some chairs up against walls maximizes the space being used. If that's the case and you're not able to float them out in the room, do that. But I'm saying if possible, try not to line all of the walls with your furniture pieces. Try to float some of those furniture pieces in the room. Still keeping good flow and conversation. We'll talk about those in a bit, but just try to avoid smooshing everything out and then having this big gap on the in-between. The idea is you want to keep things kind of cozy and intimate in a way where you can still move around freely, but you're not shouting from across the room to the other person. Okay, so let's come back to that living room setting. So if you recall in my previous clip, we had everything kind of centered around the fireplace and we had our furniture kind of grouped here. What I'm saying to avoid is avoid wanting to place your furniture, all your furniture pieces, up against all the walls. Try to avoid this. This just adds, it makes everything seem crowded. It leaves way too much space over on one side. Even if I shift this over and try to, now I understand in some circumstances,
you need to push some things up against the wall. I get that. I know not everybody has the space. Some living rooms may be long and narrow, and you do have to put some things against the wall, but try to pull things away from the wall. See how this just does not flow? We've got the entry here. What are we looking at? We're looking at the wall. We've got a conversation grouping over here. These guys are way over on the other side of the room. It just doesn't work. It doesn't flow. So my point was to kind of bring everything out away from the walls. You still have plenty of room to walk around. You still have great space where you're all together and you can talk freely without having to shout. This is a basic gist. Obviously, things need tweaked a little bit, but you're able to walk in. Your focal point is coming into this grouping, not just looking straight through to a wall. You've got good flow. You can get around this way. You can come through, enter the room this way. You can stand near the windows and look out of them. You've got great flow. Plus, you've got all your focus here or here.
Tip number 3 in my furniture placement guide is to create a conversation space. We're again talking about the living room in this instance. You want to place your furniture in a fashion where if you have company or you're sitting with family members, you can actually talk to them. You can talk freely to them and not have obstructions or have to turn in a weird, funky way to see them or speak to them. You want to be able to face each other. Not that you have to be directly across from one another like I am from these chairs, but just having a nice, almost think circular. Not that things are placed in a circle, but think of a circular conversation where you have nice flow of conversation from one person to the next in the room. So this is a great conversation space where I've got my love seat. I've got 2 nice chairs placed on the opposite side of me, so I can easily see the person I'm speaking with. They can hear me, they can see me just fine, and we can have a nice chat.
So in this layout, this is very similar to the situation that I was just sitting in the showroom, where we have a nice sofa or love seat, just depending on the size of the room. We've got a cocktail table between us where we can easily set a drink or a book or whatever we need to sit down. And then there's 2 chairs across the way with a nice little table between them, again, to set down a drink for convenience. But we've got nice conversation flow going back and forth like this. So this is the similar setup to what we have at the boutique showroom where I was sitting. Another great conversation setup is this more traditional setting where we've got 2 sofas that are facing one another with our cocktail table between. You can add maybe little end tables on the ends of the sofa if you'd like, but the idea again is to be able to easily converse back and forth.
Tip number 4 is bringing balance to the space. There are a couple types of balance that you can do. One is symmetrical and one is asymmetrical. So symmetrical balance is going to be more of your traditional style. Say you have a fireplace as your focal point and that fireplace is flanked with 2 sofas. That is symmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance would be if I have a sofa on one side and maybe 2 chairs on the other side. They're not identical pieces. They're not identical in size or shape, but visually, the weight visually of each of them looks symmetrical, looks balanced.
All right, so what does that look like here? Well, symmetrical, as I was describing, I've got 2 sofas that are flanking this fireplace. That is a symmetrical balance where if I split this room right down the middle, I would have a mirror image from one side to the other. You see this in decor as well, especially on a mantle, very traditional to put maybe a candlestick on this side, a candlestick on that side, and there's a piece of art, or there is a cluster of vases here, same cluster over here, they match. Symmetrical balance, think of mirror image from one side to the other. For asymmetrical balance, if I take this sofa away and throw in those 2 chairs that I had previously, that gives me asymmetrical balance. I've got a sofa here, I've got 2 smaller chairs here. They're basically the same, if you think about it. They're basically taking up the same amount of space, just with different furniture pieces. I'm gonna make this table a little smaller maybe, so that works in this space. So visually, the weight of what I have going on over here is the same visually as the weight I have going on this side.
Tip number 5, find your flow. Find the flow of the room. You want to be able to move around. Say you're in a bedroom space and you have this king size bed. Will it fit the space? Can you walk around the room? In the living room, the way you place your furniture, can you comfortably move around the cocktail table, get to the sofa, get to your chairs, your love seat, whatever furniture pieces you have to sit? In the dining room, can you comfortably sit around that table, pull a chair out, and still walk around the room? Or are your guests trapped? Sometimes we have to go to the bathroom, so can they get out, or are they gonna feel like they're stuck? You wanna make sure that the way things are placed and seated in the room provides a way that they're comfortable when they're seated as well as when they're walking about.
All right, so flow. We're gonna go back to this space that we just left. So as I said before, we've got an entryway into the room here. You can easily enter the room with no obstruction. You can easily enter the room and find seating with no obstructions. I'd probably move this a little more centered to the space. So we can easily enter here, seat, easily enter, be seated, easily tend to the fireplace if needed. We've got great flow going around the room in this living room. Now let's take a look at a bedroom setting. So we've got our entry here, and we've got this is a California king size bed. So this is a nice big bedroom. We've got a bench at the base of it because we've got the extra space to spare. We've got good flow to one side of the bed and good flow through past the dresser and to the other side of the bed. Bed is easily made on both sides. Trying to make a California king bed, if it is smushed up against the wall, is going to be very difficult. If I smushed that bed over there, it's going to be very difficult to make that bed. You're going to be climbing back and forth all over. So again, good flow. I'm centering the bed off of the walls so that I've got room for those nightstands on both sides, and I've got good flow around the room.
My final tip number 6, is to consider scale. Scale of furniture in the room. Scale can affect your flow. Say you've got a decent sized room, but you decide you want the biggest, fluffiest sofa that they create in that room. You want to be on a cloud. It's fantastic. But the problem is, if it's in there, it takes up all the space. It affects the flow. That, no matter how much you love that sofa, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You really don't want it. You're going to end up being disappointed in the end. Maybe there's a smaller scale piece that looks similar that fits the space better. You want to consider your flow, the conversation in the space. Can this room function with the furniture pieces that you're placing in it? The reverse is also true. If you have this big, gargantuan room and you moved your furniture from your little studio apartment into it, and it's rinky-dinky and you've got all of this void space around, that smaller furniture doesn't exactly fit the scale of that room either. So you want to think about those previous points and making sure that you have good flow with the pieces that are there. You can have them in the room in a pleasing way, trying to maybe keep them off of the walls. And you also want to make sure that there's nice conversation in the space, so you're not super spread apart or all smushed together. You also want to think about scale in items that you place in the room, like your television. A lot of people want to have their big 72-inch screen TV, but the room is a 12 by 12. And if that 72-inch screen TV is placed on the wall, you're watching the TV like you're watching a tennis match, because where the sofa is placed and the size of the screen, you're just sitting too close. And also true, if you have that TV screen and you want to place it over your mantle and you're sitting too close to it, you end up watching TV like this, because again, it's just too close and too high up. So thinking about scale, not just in the furniture placement on the ground, but how that works with the things that you're trying to do and view in the space as well.
Now let's take a look at that exact same room, but what if we throw a little wrench in here, and what if we have a closet or an entry into a bathroom on this side? Well, that Cal King bed might be a little tight. Not because these are obstructing into the bed area, but when that door swings open, it's going to hit our night side table. Now you might say, well, I'd never pull the doors all the way open. Well, why wouldn't you? So here's the thing. If we downsize this bed to a queen, this allows those doors to swing all the way open, fold against the wall if you'd like, but we're not going to knock up against this night side table anymore. So all we did is we went from this to this. Not a big difference, but shifting sometimes every couple of inches matters. And in this case, it does. With that king size bed, this being shifted over, every time you open those closet doors, bathroom doors, it's going to bang against the furniture. You don't want that. So just sizing down a little bit to that queen size bed, you still have plenty of room to sprawl out, be comfortable, be cozy, but it really also opens up that space to be able to walk through freely and let everything function properly as well.
With all of this being said, not every room is identical, and there are some spaces, when they were built, they truly create a challenge, even for us, the professionals. There are some spaces that I've gone into, and I really had to play around with it on in a program to make sure that flow was happening, that scale was working, and just what the best arrangement was. There are some of those really unique spaces that you might need to hire in a professional. If you've got questions about the things that I've talked about today, please comment below. If you've got a situation where you're kind of baffled, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. That's what we're here for. If you're local, feel free to stop in, bring us your challenge. We'd be glad to work with you. If you're from far away, shoot us a comment. We'll try to help you, or maybe finding a professional in your area is the direction to go. If you've got a space that you put together that you are super proud of, shoot us a picture. We'd love to see it. Or maybe you've got a challenge and you're not quite sure what to do. Send that to us as well. Maybe we can help out. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel, and we appreciate every single view we get. We love to hear from you, so make sure you comment. And if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe, follow along. We'd be happy to have you with us on this crazy journey that we've got going on.